Irelia used to be the queen of mid lane. In high elo, low elo, competitive, didn't matter. She was considered worthy of permanent bans and picks, and the flashiest and best Irelia players made her look nearly unbeatable. Not that she was the only champion who abused it, but she did almost single-handedly get the Trinity Force Sterix combo as well as the Conqueror Keystone nerfed. She was far too good with the both of those. She has received several changes since those days, such as reducing the time on her marks for her Q resets, Defiant Dance now only gives physical damage reduction, changes to her cooldowns, passive, and now her ultimate no longer disarms enemies, but rather has more base damage for better burst now. The changes were intended to do a couple of things. Number 1, push her out of the mid lane. Changing from all damage to only physical damage means pressing W against Syndra R isn't going to help you very much. Number 2, make her more attack speed and on-hit oriented. These changes to her passive are meaningful, which allows her to build other items such as Wit's End or Blade of the Ruin King and feel a bit more like the old Irelia, where you turn on your W and auto enemies to death. Now that it's been a while and the dust has settled, let's talk about her current state. This video is in reference to the top lane, but some of the stuff applies to mid lane Irelia as well. Just remember what we talked about with her W and passive changes, how her changes were actually meant to put her back in the top lane. So, I've played a lot of Irelia. I've tried Press the Attack, Conquer, Resolve, Domination, Sorcery, Inspiration all as secondaries, Time Warp Tonic, Mana Flow Ban, Absolute Focus, even Unflinching and Resolve because I saw someone else do it. And keep in mind, I have also played a lot of Irelia in the past. I would say I'm quite experienced on her, so take what I say in terms of her power with that in mind. Right now, I like her. A lot. I think that she has some very clear strengths, but also some clear weaknesses. She wins early game duels with both Press the Attack and Conqueror, as long as you do one thing well, which is play around your passive. The on-hit damage that you get at maximum stacks and the attack speed that you get is significant, so don't underestimate it playing both as and against her. If you want to be successful with this champion, you have to have a great understanding of all of your abilities, because all of them are important. If you're playing Lucian, you don't really need to use your W perfectly, or honestly at all. Most of your strength comes from a great laning phase, using your E to dodge skill shots, and proccing your passive several times with Press the Attack and all-inning. However, Irelia has to be able to use every single ability in your kit well, including your passive. Using your W to block physical damage is massive, and it's a massive advantage. Throwing it out is actually pretty good damage too. The damage reduction itself will be the difference between smashing a trade against Riven and losing it hard. In your bad matchups, using W correctly is vital. I've played several games underestimating just how important it is to correctly play with this ability and going too aggressive, and I was heavily punished for it. You have no choice but to be good with your E. If you don't hit stuns, you lose, period. This is by far the most important thing, along with constantly playing around your passive. One thing to remember is that your Q heals you, and as long as you start Corrupting Potion, surprisingly Irelia can spam this and you don't really have mana problems. Play lane and trade slowly, and heal up on every minion with your Q, and you'll make it back to full health in no time. Your all-in combo is to make sure that you have at least a couple of passive stacks and your Conqueror stacks ready. Then either stack up to full with your Q on minions, E-stun into using your R for an all-in, or fish for some stuns. If you're winning and are snowballing, as long as you always have your passive ready, just hitting a stun is usually enough to kill your opponent. Where Irelia really has problems is later on, when you eventually do get outscaled by other fighters. It doesn't matter how well you played or did, eventually you will lose the split to Riven and Jax. Their items and synergy with the Conqueror rune is just too good, and they have tools to outplay you. Jax is way too tanky and does way too much damage, and Riven is too tanky, does too much damage, and dodges all of your abilities with her mobility. I liked Conqueror more than I thought I would, despite all of its nerfs. The healing is wonderful, and the true damage is a must against tank matchups. If you're playing against Sion or Garen, there's no reason not to take it because you have so much time to fully stack up your Conqueror. Press the Attack does have a higher win rate as a keystone, but I do assume that a lot of these are either mid lane Irelia or it's a win more type of rune. If you are against a squishy matchup such as Yasuo or Fiora top lane, PTA does seem better. You hurt significantly more early game with this, and your level 3 all-in is quite powerful. I started off all of these Irelia play sessions thinking she was much worse, but I was pleasantly surprised to find out that she's better than I expected. My conclusion is B tier for lower or normal elo, and A tier for higher elo. She is not the best bruiser. There are better options for her playstyle at the moment, which is why it is a bit weird to recommend her. It's almost like, why play Irelia when you can play Jax, Riven, or Kled? However, given how strong her early and mid game is, in a very early game focused meta, some games you do have the chance to end the game before the other bruisers reach their OP late game of 2 to 4 items. She does have some bad matchups, and is very hard to play, arguably harder than Riven depending on who you ask, but what I do like about her is that she isn't banned as often, and still is very fun. The build is Trinity Force, Titanic, Sterix, and GA, but she's actually quite good with Death's Dance as well. Irelia isn't what she used to be, and that's for a good reason. She definitely received nerfs for a very good part of the last year because she was OP in competitive play and high elo. But if you like her, and are good at her, it's worth picking her up again and giving a try. But if you would like to win more not just on Irelia, but also in general, make sure you check out Mobalytics today at mobalytics.gg, which is your all-in-one platform for improving and getting better at League of Legends. Link is always in the description down below.